Have you ever watched someone walk straight into a disaster, like full speed, eyes open, completely convinced they're right, and you just stood there thinking, I could stop this, but maybe I shouldn't? Yeah, that was me. And the thing is, this wasn't some small mistake. This was the kind that ends careers, drains bank accounts, and puts your name in court records forever, and I knew it, every second of it. My name's Daniel Brooks. I live in a quiet subdivision outside of Cedar Ridge. One of those places where everything looks perfect from the outside. Trimmed lawns, matching mailboxes, neighbors who wave just enough to seem polite, but not enough to get involved. And of course, we had an HOA. Because of course we did. Now the president of our HOA. Her name was Linda Carver. And if you've ever lived under one of those hyper-controlling HOA leaders, you already know the type. Clipboard in hand. Voice always just a little too confident. Like she's been waiting her whole life for the chance to tell people what they're doing wrong. Linda didn't just enforce rules, she enjoyed it. She thrived on it. 6 years in that position, and she'd turned compliance into a personal sport. People didn't argue with her, not because she was right, but because it was easier to just give in, repaint the fence, move the trash cans, pay the fine, whatever made her go away. I'd heard stories. Neighbors who ended up selling their homes just to escape the constant pressure. But me, I kept my head down, stayed out of it, until the day she came after something that wasn't even mine. I got back from a work trip, 3 days out of town, nothing unusual, and there it was, bright yellow notice stapled right to my front door, bold black letters screaming, violation notice. You could see it from halfway down the driveway, real subtle. I pulled it off and started reading, and within about 10 seconds I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it made no sense. According to Linda, the small wooden bridge at the entrance of my driveway. Yeah, the one I'd been driving over every day for years was an unauthorized structure, and I had 30 days to demolish it, or I'd be fined $500 a day. $500 a day. I stood there for a second just staring at the paper. Then I looked down the driveway at the bridge, 20 feet long, solid wood, steel supports underneath. Been there longer than the neighborhood itself. I hadn't built it. The previous owner hadn't built it. It just existed like it always had. And that's when something fell off. Not unfair, because HOA notices are almost always unfair, but wrong, like factually wrong. I walked down to the bridge, really looked at it this time, and noticed something I'd never paid attention to before. A small metal plate bolted to one of the support beams, weathered, rusted, almost completely faded. You could barely make out any of the text. I took a picture anyway, something about it stuck with me. I didn't call Linda, didn't send an email, didn't argue. Instead, I went inside, sat at my kitchen table, and just thought. There was this vague memory, something from when I bought the house, the closing process, paperwork, legal talk that most people tune out. But one phrase kept coming back. Easement. Something about the creek running along the property line. Next morning, I drove straight to the county records office, spent about 2 hours digging through documents, property maps, surveys, old permits, and then I found it. The boundary line of my property, clearly marked, and the bridge wasn't on it. Not even close, about 15 feet outside, sitting on a narrow strip of land designated as a public right-of-way. And then came the piece that made everything click. A county infrastructure record, dated 1972, authorizing construction of a bridge at that exact location, funded and maintained by the county. I leaned back in that chair and just stared at the paper, because suddenly, this wasn't a disagreement. This wasn't HOA overreach. This was something else entirely. That bridge didn't belong to me. It didn't belong to the neighborhood. It belonged to the county. Public property. I made copies of everything, scanned it, backed it up, organized it like I was preparing for court. Because at that point, I had 2 options. Option 1, the reasonable one, send Linda the documents, explain the mistake, shut the whole thing down before it goes any further. Option 2, say nothing. Let her keep going. Let her escalate. Let her push this all the way to demolition. Let her bring in contractors. Let her stand there and personally oversee the destruction of something she has absolutely no authority over. And here's the thing you need to understand about Linda Carver. She didn't make mistakes quietly. She doubled down. Every time. I'd seen it happen to other people. She'd get challenged. She'd dig in deeper, find new violations, stack fines, make life miserable until you either gave up or moved out. It wasn't about rules, it was about control. So I sat there in my car outside the records office, documents in hand, and I asked myself one question. If I tell her now, does anything actually change? Or does she just find another way to come after me? And that's when the thought hit me, slow at first, then all at once. I'm not responsible for saving her from her own decisions. I didn't file the notice. I didn't threaten demolition. I didn't assume ownership without checking records. She did. All of it. So I drove home, looked at that bridge again, the same one I'd crossed every day without thinking, and for the first time, I saw it for what it really was. Not a problem, not a violation, but a test. 30 days. That's what she gave me. 30 days to fix something that wasn't mine. But really, it was 30 days for her to decide how far she was willing to go. And I had already made my decision. I wasn't going to stop her. I was going to let her finish what she started. And when she did, I was going to make sure everyone knew exactly what she'd done. On record, on camera, with her name on every single step. Now let's pause for a second, because what's happening here, it's not just drama. It's actually a textbook example of how HOAs can go wrong when authority isn't checked. According to standard procedure, before an HOA enforces any structural violation, especially something as serious as demolition, they are supposed to verify jurisdiction, meaning they need to confirm that the structure is actually on private property under HOA control, not assumed, not guessed, verified, usually through surveys, plats, or county records. And in this case, that step never happened. From a legal perspective, that's where everything starts to fall apart. Because the moment you enforce authority over land you don't control, you're stepping into liability territory, and not small liability either. We're talking about destruction of public infrastructure, which can escalate from civil penalties straight into criminal charges depending on intent and negligence. But here's where it gets even more interesting. This is a psychological trap. Linda wasn't just making a mistake. She was locked into a pattern. 6 years of unchecked authority builds a kind of overconfidence that blinds you to basic due diligence. She didn't verify ownership because in her mind, she didn't need to. She was the authority. And once someone like that commits publicly, sending notices, making announcements, involving the community, it becomes almost impossible for them to back down. Not because they can't, but because their identity is tied to being right. And that's exactly how small mistakes turn into irreversible ones. So after that, I did exactly what you're probably thinking I shouldn't have done. I went quiet, completely quiet. No emails, no objections, no. Hey, by the way, that's not my bridge. Nothing. And Linda, she took that silence exactly the way people like her always do, as compliance, or worse, as weakness. 3 days later, my phone rings, unknown number. I already know who it is. Daniel, this is Linda Carver from the HOA. Just following up on your violation notice. Her voice had that same tone. Calm, controlled, but with this edge underneath, like she was already expecting obedience. I told her I received it. Then I stopped talking. And that pause, it bothered her. I could hear it. She filled it immediately. You understand this is a serious matter, right? That structure is unsafe, it's unapproved, and it creates liability for the community. I let her finish. Then I asked one simple question. Do you have documentation showing that bridge is on my property? Silence. Just for a second. Then she snapped right back. It's at the entrance to your driveway. Daniel, it's obviously your responsibility. Obviously. That word right there. That's how this whole thing unraveled. I repeated myself, calm, steady. I'd like to see the property survey confirming that. Her tone changed sharper now. You'll receive our position in writing. But let me be clear. If it's not removed within the deadline, we will authorize demolition and bill you accordingly. Click. She hung up. No proof, no verification, just authority. Exactly what I expected. So I documented everything, saved the call, labeled it, time-stamped, added it to the folder. Because at this point, this wasn't a disagreement anymore. This was a record being built. And Linda, she was writing most of it herself. A few days later, certified letter shows up. HOA letterhead, official language, the whole thing. Same violation, same threats. But this time there was something extra. A form. Acknowledgement of responsibility. It required my signature, stating that the bridge was mine, that I accepted responsibility, and that I agreed to cover all costs if enforcement proceeded. I actually laughed when I read that, because now she wasn't just wrong. She was trying to get me to legally confirm her mistake. If I signed it, I'd be lying and giving her exactly what she needed. If I fought it, I'd trigger escalation. So I chose option 3. I did nothing. No signature, no response, just silence. And that silence, it pushed her exactly where I needed her to go. The emails started coming in, reminders, warnings, deadlines, each one more aggressive than the last. 14 days remaining. Final notice. Contractor will be engaged. Every message, archived. Every threat, documented. Meanwhile, I set up cameras. Front of the house, angle on the bridge, cloud storage, timestamps, backup systems. I wasn't guessing anymore. I was preparing. Because if this went where I thought it was going, I needed everything on record. Then came the board meeting. Open to residents. I could have gone in there, dropped the county documents on the table, ended the whole thing in 5 minutes. But I didn't. I sat in the back, quiet, just watching. Linda stood at the front like a prosecutor. Confident, polished, completely certain she was right. This structure is in violation of our community standards. The homeowner has refused to comply. She didn't even look at me when she said it. Didn't need to. She already had the room. Most of the board just nodded along. They'd seen this before. They trusted her process, or at least they didn't want to challenge it. Then one woman, Karen Ellis, newer board member. She hesitated. Should we verify the property boundary first, just to be sure it's actually his responsibility? And for a split second, I thought, there it is. That's the moment. But Linda shut it down immediately. Karen, the bridge is at his driveway. This isn't complicated. We've already given him multiple notices. That was it. No discussion, no verification. Vote goes through 4-1. Demolition approved. And just like that, it was locked in. From that moment on, this wasn't theoretical anymore. This was going to happen. The days leading up to it, the atmosphere in the neighborhood shifted. Linda posted on the community forum. Didn't name me, didn't need to. Dangerous structure, non-compliant homeowner, protecting property values. People ate it up. Comments, support, praise. Neighbors stopped making eye contact. Conversations cut short when I walked by. Didn't matter, because none of them knew what was actually coming. And I wasn't going to tell them. 3 days before demolition, I see it. Flatbed truck, hauling an excavator, bright yellow, steel teeth on the bucket, rolling right past my house. That's when it hit differently, because up until then, it was just paperwork. Now it was real. Metal, engines, people getting paid to tear something down. And Linda, she was all in. No hesitation, no doubt, just full commitment. Which is exactly what made this irreversible. Morning of demolition. August 12th. Clear sky, no wind. One of those quiet mornings where everything feels normal. I'm sitting on my porch with coffee. Camera's been running since sunrise. And right on schedule. Here they come. Convoy of vehicles, contractor trucks, dump truck, the excavator, and right behind them, Linda's car. She steps out, blazer, clipboard, like she's managing a project site. Workers start setting up, cones, tape, equipment. The excavator gets unloaded, engine roaring. And then she walks up my driveway toward me. Daniel, she says, calm, almost friendly. Last chance, if you want to handle this yourself, we can delay. I take a sip of coffee. I'm not going to interfere. That's all I said. And you could see it. That little shift in her expression, satisfaction. Like she just won. Smart decision, she says. Then she turns around, walks back. At 8:17 a.m., the excavator moves into position. Bucket lifts. And comes down. First plank gone. Cracked in half like it was nothing. And just like that, it starts. Piece by piece, section by section, the bridge comes apart. Wood splintering, metal groaning, debris dropping into the creek. Workers moving fast, efficient routine. Linda standing there watching. Nodding. Taking pictures. Actually taking pictures. Like this was some kind of victory moment. And the entire time, that metal sign, the one I cleaned weeks ago, still there. Clear as day. County bridge, property of Cedar Ridge County. Visible. Readable. Ignored. By 9:40. It was over. Nothing left but concrete footings and broken wood in the water. The bridge gone. Completely gone. Linda walks back up to me one last time. Smile on her face. That'll be about $14,200. Invoice will be sent this week. If you don't pay, we'll file a lien. I look at her. I'm not paying for that. She tilts her head, still smiling. Then we'll see you in court. And just like that, she leaves. Drives off like it's done. Like she handled it. Like she was right. I waited. Until every truck was gone. Until the street was empty. Until it was quiet again. Then I went inside. Sat down. And made 3 calls. First, County Road Department. I need to report the destruction of County Bridge number 847. Pause. Long pause. Second call, Sheriff's Office. Reported everything, names, timeline, contractor. Third call, County Engineering Office. Sent them everything. Videos, photos, documents, every notice Linda ever signed. Every email, every piece of evidence. By noon, it was already moving. Inspectors dispatched. Case opened. Documents reviewed. And for the first time in this entire situation, the authority wasn't hers anymore. 2 days later, my phone rings again. Linda. But this time her voice. Different. What did you tell them? No confidence, no control. Just panic. I keep it simple. I reported the destruction of county property. Silence. That bridge was yours. No, it wasn't. And then I told her. Everything. County records, easement, construction history. All of it. And on the other end of the line, you could hear it. That moment. When realization hits. Not slowly. All at once. That's not possible. It's documented. Why didn't you say anything? And that question, that's the one people always ask. So I answered her the same way I'll answer you. You never asked, you assumed. Silence again. Then quieter. You knew the whole time. I did. And you let this happen. And I paused. Just for a second. Then said, I didn't do anything. You did everything. And that was it. No yelling. No argument. Just the sound of someone realizing. They didn't win. They built their own case. And now, they had to live with it. So yeah, that's how it ended. Not with some dramatic courtroom speech or me winning in the traditional sense, but with a quiet shift, the kind where everything just flips, and suddenly the person who thought they had all the power doesn't. And people always ask me the same question. Do you feel bad? And the honest answer is, it depends on how you look at it. Because yeah, I could have stopped it. At any point. Day 1, I could have sent the documents, cleared it up, saved the bridge, saved the money, saved her from everything that came after. But here's the thing. That wouldn't have fixed the real problem. That would have just reset the game. Because Linda wasn't enforcing rules, she was enforcing control. And people like that don't stop when they're corrected. They pivot, they find another angle, another target, another reason. I'd seen it before. Neighbors getting buried in fines over inches, over technicalities, over things that didn't matter until she decided they did. So the question stopped being, can I stop this? And started becoming, does stopping this actually change anything? And the answer was no, not long term. The lesson here is, sometimes the system doesn't correct itself until someone pushes it far enough that it has to. And that's uncomfortable, because it means letting something bad happen in order to stop something worse. And yeah, that's a hard line to sit with. But let's zoom out for a second, because this isn't just about one HOA, one bridge, or one person making a bad call. This is about something bigger. Authority without verification. That's the real issue. From a legal perspective, what happened here is actually pretty simple. She exercised control over something she didn't own, without confirming jurisdiction, and once that action caused damage, liability kicked in fast. But what's more interesting is how easily it happened. Nobody on that board checked. Nobody pulled records. Nobody slowed things down. Because they trusted the system, or more specifically, they trusted her. And that's where it gets dangerous. Because systems don't fail all at once. They fail quietly. One assumption at a time. One unchecked decision. One, this is probably fine. Until suddenly, it's not fine anymore. This is a psychological trap. When someone holds authority long enough without being challenged, they stop questioning themselves, not consciously, but gradually. They start replacing facts with confidence. And confidence sounds a lot like certainty, even when it's wrong, especially when it's wrong. And once that confidence gets reinforced, through compliance, through silence, through people not pushing back, it becomes identity. I'm the one who enforces the rules. I'm the one who decides. So when someone like that is faced with doubt, they don't slow down. They double down. Because admitting uncertainty feels like losing control. And that's exactly what happened here. Now here's the part people don't always want to hear. I wasn't the hero of this story. I didn't fight her. I didn't expose her. I didn't outsmart her in some grand strategic way. I just didn't interrupt. And sometimes that's enough. Sometimes the most powerful move is stepping aside, letting someone continue exactly as they are, especially when exactly as they are is unsustainable. Because people reveal themselves over time. Given enough rope, enough decisions, enough unchecked momentum, they show you exactly where it leads. And in this case, it led straight into consequences. Real ones. Legal, financial, reputational. The kind that don't just disappear. Now, does that mean you should always stay silent? No, not even close. Most situations don't need to escalate this far. Most problems can, and should, be solved early. But every once in a while, you run into something different. A pattern. A system that's built on pressure instead of fairness. And in those cases, fixing one incident doesn't fix the system. It just delays the next one. So the real question becomes, where do you draw the line? When do you step in? And when do you step back? Because both choices have consequences. And neither one is easy. Now I'll tell you this. If there's one thing I took away from all of this, it's not about HOAs or rules or even that bridge. It's this. Always verify. Always. Whether you're the one enforcing something or the one being told to comply. Check the facts. Check the records. Because assumptions, they feel fast, they feel efficient, but they're expensive. And sometimes, they're irreversible. And if you're ever in a position of authority, even a small one, that's when it matters most. Because the more power you have, the more damage a mistake can do, and the less likely people are to question you. Which means, you have to question yourself. More, not less. That's the part Linda never understood. She thought power meant being right. But power just means responsibility. And if you forget that, eventually, something or someone will remind you the hard way. So yeah, that's the story. Now I'm curious. What would you have done? Would you have told her immediately, stopped everything before it started? Or would you have done exactly what I did and let it play out? Drop it in the comments. I actually read those. And if you're into stories like this, real situations where things go sideways in ways nobody expects, hit subscribe. Because trust me, this kind of thing happens more often than you think. Just not always on camera.